Welcome back to the Literary Lori YouTube channel. I have a question for my writers. Do you have a personal curriculum for 2026? If not, stick around and I'm going to try to convince you why you have to have one. And if you do already have a personal curriculum for 2026, also stick around because I want to see if you are in alignment with me as to why I think this is the best thing any writer could do for their literary life. All right, let's get into it. All right, literarians, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lori L. Tharps. I am a traditionally published author of mostly nonfiction who moved to the south of Spain to relaunch her career as a full-time novelist. On this channel, I generally talk about suggestions, advice, and strategies for loving your literary life as a writer. And I also like to give updates about my own journey of relaunching myself as a full-time novelist. So in this video, I want to talk about this trend called the personal curriculum trend. Yes, if you haven't heard of it or you've heard of it and don't know exactly what it is, a personal curriculum, the trend that people are talking about, is essentially having a specific topic to deep dive into over the course of a year. It's exactly as basic as it sounds. I'm going to get into the specifics, but that's what it is. And if you've heard it, if you've heard about it or only recently heard about it, it's because it is trending. It is something that people kind of started talking about at the end of 2025 in response to the doom scrolling, the sense of mindless scrolling on the internet, the disconnect from real life, this overall analog trend, getting away from digital, and also what you might have heard about an anti-brain rot challenges that people are doing to reclaim their brains from the internet. Okay, so the personal curriculum trend has been a part of this overall anti-brain rot, reclaiming the brain from the internet trend that people are really engaged with. And I want to say that this feels like a millennial trend, like maybe the millennials started the personal curriculum, but I can't pinpoint that for sure. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who started the trend because we can all benefit from it, particularly writers. And that's what I want to talk about is how I, as a very much non-millennial, I am squarely Gen X, which also doesn't matter, how I have as a writer have jumped on the trend, why I jumped on the trend, and why I think all writers should jump on the personal curriculum trend. All right, so in the video, I'm going to talk about we just talked about what the trend is, but I'm also going to just break down how you can get involved in the personal curriculum trend and also really talk about the benefits for writers. All right, so let's start with the benefits and then we'll get into the, how you can do this. So the benefits are pretty basic, but basic in terms of what you're getting from them, but they're benefits that we all as writers really need. So let's start with the basic benefits. So one, the most important thing with the personal curriculum, and again, with its origins of being, in opposition to kind of the digital overload, is that doing a personal curriculum makes you smarter for two reasons. One, it gets you off of the dumbing down trends that happen with endless scrolling, with AI usage. So by studying something, by focusing with directed study, you are literally creating new neural pathways. You are ingesting new information. You are committing to learning. So you are obviously making yourself smarter. Who doesn't want to be smarter? You are also improving your attention span, a directed study over the course of time away from the internet and the kind of short form content we're used to ingesting these days. You are going to improve that attention span. And that is something that you can do rather quickly. You can kill your attention span over the course of just like a month of over scrolling, but on the same token, you can bring it back. It is not something, it's like your metabolism. It's something you can destroy, but it is also something that you can improve and bring back up to levels where you had a very good attention span and you could read a whole book and other things that you miss out on today because of our addiction to short form content. Another benefit is the potential for building community off the internet. Depending on how you structure your personal curriculum, it could require you to engage with real life people in different communities that you otherwise would not be in. And of course, it would simply, in many ways, might get you off the computer, which for even down to your eyesight could be a benefit for you. So those are the general ideas of why the personal curriculum is beneficial. But for the writer, you get all of those benefits, but you get a couple of extra ones as well. One, which is the most important thing for a writer, why the benefits for the personal curriculum, is that for writers, you are providing yourself with new fertilizer for creative ideas. Yes. We all know that creative ideas do not develop from fallow ground, right? Creative ideas, like flowers, do not develop from fallow ground. They have to be in ground that is well fed, that is fertilized, and a personal curriculum, you can think about it as fertilizer for your creativity. When we think about where we get creative ideas for our stories, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, poetry or prose, you need to have a mind that's bursting with creative ideas, with new ideas, with complex and specific ideas. And if you have dulled your mind down, and it could be even, not necessarily just from internet, exposure, it could be just overexposure to depressing news. It could be you could be suffering from depression or other things. And I'm saying mild depression. I'm not suggesting that a personal curriculum is going to cure serious depression. I'm not saying that at all. But because of, the idea of the state of the world, what you're ingesting, even just watching the news on television, it can dull your sense of creativity. And the personal curriculum can be an excellent way to re-spark, to reinvigorate your creativity. And we all know what Sister Maya Angelou said about creativity. You can never use up your creativity. The more you use, the more it grows. And creativity is the number one ingredient every writer needs to stay engaged with their written work. It's what they need to continue to produce whatever it is you write. You need that creativity. And this type of activity, having a personal curriculum, is excellent for that. And last but not least, the personal curriculum can also reignite your joy. I would posit that most writers have a thirst for knowledge. It's just kind of what we do. And it doesn't matter where that knowledge is, we're always wanting to learn new things, right? And so by deep diving into a topic that we personally selected, that's something that we're excited about, you have the potential of tapping back into your joy. So if you feel like you have lost your capacity to feel joy for whatever the reasons, a personal curriculum can reignite that passion. And I think if we're writing from a place of joy, obviously our writing is going to be better. So those are your potential benefits from doing a personal curriculum, and I stand by them, and I really hope that you consider this because it can be, I'm not going to say life-changing like $1 million life-changing, but it can be life-changing as far as we speak about our literary lives. All right, so now, hopefully I've convinced you, hopefully you're still with me. Now let's just talk about what does the personal curriculum look like? How do you get into it? You want to do it. All right, let's talk about it. So I'm going to use my example as I give you these kind of instructions so you can see what it would look like in a real life example. So step one for creating your own personal curriculum would be to simply decide on your topic. Now, deciding on your topic should not just be something you just pull out of the air because you're interested in, fashion. Like fashion seems like really broad and isn't specific enough for you to know what you want to do with fashion. So the other thing is some people say, oh, you can do a personal curriculum and do it, on your syllabus or on your curriculum. Pick 4 things you want to learn more about. I disagree with that. Remember, this is a personal curriculum, so you can disagree with me. That is fine. But I'm going to suggest, as a professor, as a writing coach, and as a person with an opinion always, I think your personal curriculum should be on one topic, okay? Because it makes the following, or I should say, it makes the setup of your personal curriculum a lot easier if you're talking about one topic. Now, there's a caveat to that. I, for example, am a person who likes to think about and study a lot of different things at the same time. So I understand the desire to make your personal curriculum go beyond one topic. But my suggestion to you is to make a list of all of the things that you are interested in that might make for a good personal curriculum. I did that, and I started out with a list of things that I was interested in. I was interested in hoodoo culture, folk magic. I was interested in tea because I have been, since moving to Spain, I started getting into black teas, and I couldn't find the teas that I liked in the US. It took me a lot of time to find the exact locations, the tea stores, I should say, in my city in Spain that had this tea that I wanted, which I never actually found. So I was trying different things, and it kind of became a game for me to find a tea that is the most similar to the tea I was looking for. And the tea I was looking for, by the way, was called Princess Grey tea. It's in the Earl Grey family. Anyway, so I put that on my curriculum because your interests don't have to be academic by any stretch of the imagination. So I had this list of topics that I was interested in studying, thinking about, because again, I was like, how do I create a personal curriculum? Let me start with, what am I interested in? Then once I had this list of maybe like 6 to 8 different topics, thinking which one should it be, I realized that if I chose tea as my topic, that a lot of the other things I was interested in fell under that category. So by studying tea, I could also look at hoodoo culture and plant medicine, because a lot of hoodoo culture plant medicine is tea. They use tea for herbal remedies, right? So, and there were other things. I was like, I'm interested in black people. I'm interested in black people doing things that we don't know about, like that are not talked about. I like that discovery of black culture in places you don't expect it. So I added one of my study goals would be to look at African American tea culture. So rather than picking multiple topics, I suggest you list out the things you're interested in and see where they might intersect. So like me, I'm an intersectional personal curriculum girly, okay? My topic is intersectional with a lot of other topics, but the overall theme, the topic I'm studying, is tea. So I suggest you do that, is try to find a way to make your topic fit the different areas that you're interested in. And it's your personal curriculum, so you can do that however you want. So once I had the topic, I also focused on like what would be the study areas of that topic. And I defined those as, one, I wanted to learn the history of tea. I wanted to learn about, like I said, the intersection of African American tea culture. Not the intersection, but I wanted to learn about African American tea culture. I also wanted to learn how to make my own tea blends. I also wanted to learn about medicinal tea, how to make medicines from tea, specifically from a traditional African American hoodoo background. So I defined my different goals or areas of study within that curriculum. So that's step 1, is to decide on your topic and your areas of study within the topic. Like I said, some people say your personal curriculum, can have multiple areas. I personally prefer one area, and then define within that topic how you can perhaps connect it to other areas of interest for you. Now, step 2 is to define the time period. And here is another way that you can think about other topics. So you decide it's a personal curriculum, baby. You decide your own timetable. I chose a 1 year timetable because I wanted this to be a serious deep dive. I also didn't want to feel rushed. And I wanted this to be something, because I have so many subcategories on my curriculum, I wanted to make sure that I had time to really get to all of them, if you will. Now, other people, you may have a shorter attention span. You may want to get to other topics. You may not be deep diving as much as I am. So you could say that your personal curriculum is for just for 3 months, for 6 weeks even. And then you could have multiple topics that you go, if you're every 6 weeks or every quarter, let's say. Some people who are still on the academic calendar, you may have a curriculum that is semester 1 and semester 2. And that way you can do 2 very distinct topics. That's up to you. Personally, I chose the year because I wanted the feeling to be more about a continuous examination and flow. There are certain things that I can do as I look at plant medicine that I can do in the spring that's not what I can do in the fall. Or if I'm actually planning now, I'm planting some herbs that I can grow and make my own teas. So I need a full harvest year to see that to fruition. I remember one of the things that the author Octavia Butler did. She had a habit, what she called grazing. This was maybe her own version of a personal curriculum, but when she had topics that she was interested in, she would buy books and magazines about that topic and just leave them all over her house open. So if she was having breakfast, she might see, let's say she was interested in dinosaurs. So she might see her book that she had bought about dinosaurs. It's just on her dining room table. And while she's eating breakfast, she's paging through that. She wasn't doing it because she was researching dinosaurs for a specific book. She just wanted to always keep her mind fertile with ideas. And so that's the kind of feeling that I wanted to have with my personal curriculum. I wanted to have this sense that throughout the year, I am learning about tea and all of these different variants. So make the decision on time up to how you want to feel, how fast you want to go, and also the topic. Maybe the topic is a little smaller. You don't need to go over it for a whole year. Your goals might be a little bit less intense than mine, but you make it however you want it. But it is important to define your time period so then you can, as we go to the next step, what is it going to look like on a day-to-day basis? You can decide that based on how much time you give yourself. All right, so you have your topic, you have your timetable. Next, you want to decide the methodology of how you are going to explore this topic. So your methodology, again, it's your own personal curriculum. So do what you want to do. Like, how do you enjoy learning? Personally, before I, officially launched my personal curriculum, I did a little research. And I know what I wanted to do. I didn't want it to, again, feel like too much of a burden. So I used a combination of podcasts, documentaries, and books to begin my methodology. So I listed a few documentaries that I found about the history of tea. I found some podcasts that also talk about the history of tea, as well as I found a great podcast that talked to people who are in the tea industry. And I also found a couple of books. Right here, I ordered this book. It's called Tea and Justice. Again, my interests are always with people of the global South. There's a real issue about fair trade in tea and who is creating tea, who is growing the tea that we consume, who gets credit for the tea that we consume. And so this book about tea and justice, I want to make sure that my knowledge about the tea industry is not skewed. So books, podcasts, and documentaries became the first kind of methodology that I was giving myself. Over time, as I learn, as I get into the curriculum, I have discovered workshops. I've discovered things like tea tastings. So I'm adding those to my curriculum. And this is another reason why I wanted it to be for a whole year, because who knows what you're going to discover. But I began with podcasts, documentaries, and books. Things that I knew to use for learning. But again, now I've added, I want to make sure I go to a tea tasting. I've also added, like I said, I want to perhaps even go to a tea shop and learn from a tea sommelier. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I can add that to my methodology of how I'm going to learn. So that works for me. If, for example, your topic is a skill-based topic, which is 100% a possibility, maybe your topic was crochet or even fiber arts in general. Let's say your whole topic was fiber arts and you want to make your methodology as take a class. Maybe your topic is learning French. So your methodology could be hiring a tutor, could be travel to a country where they speak French and talk to the locals. You can determine what your methodology is, but make sure you do it. If you don't give yourself a methodology, you're going to be walking around going, oh yeah, I have a personal curriculum, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. So you are the student, but you're also the teacher. So as the teacher, make sure you give yourself a way to ingest your knowledge. And it can be multiple things. I could tell myself I have to take a tea class, and I might even do that because I have discovered some medicinal tea courses that I might want to take. So I can add that to my methodology. But I started with a very clear, watch this video, listen to this podcast, and that got me going. And it's how I ended up finding new ways to increase my knowledge about tea. All right, next, step 4. Now that we have defined our methodology, we need to figure out how to stay accountable to our, how do we stay accountable to our goals? How do we stay accountable to to your personal curriculum syllabus, if you will? Accountability is obviously something that we should all be concerned with, and it's also a very personal thing, and you have to know yourself and what is required, right? Some people, for example, for myself, I don't need external accountability in the sense that I will stay committed to this curriculum because I made it up myself and it really fits into what I want to do. So I want to make my own tea blends. I want to go to a tea tasting. This is not hard. And the part that actually helps me, that I consider this curriculum to be like guardrails for my curiosity or structure for my curiosity, is that there are times when I'm, I just have a little extra time. It's the end of the day. I'm getting ready to sit down and watch TV. Rather than scrolling mindlessly to see what's the latest on Netflix or something, because I have these guardrails, because I have some accountability to myself, rather than watching something random, I'll watch a tea documentary. Another example, I recently had to go to the mall to return something for my daughter. While I was there, because I had to kill time until the next bus left, yes, I take the bus to the mall, I found a new tea store in the mall. And I went in and they had so many different kinds of teas, all loose leaf teas. And I started talking to the shop person who worked there. She was informing me about a whole bunch of different teas because I was asking all the questions, because now I know what to ask. And then I left knowing that I found a place where I could get the teas to make my own tea blends. So even my free time, because of the quote unquote guardrails on my curiosity, because I have this personal curriculum, it keeps me accountable to myself and my time. So it's built-in accountability, right? Now, that's me. If you are the type of person who needs more accountability than just to tell yourself you got to do this, or because you didn't create goals that were inherently accountable, like if your goal was, for me, make your own tea blend, if I make that tea blend, I've accomplished my goals. I'm accountable by actually doing it. Also, that works for skill-based personal curriculums. If your personal curriculum is based on, like we said, fiber arts, your goal could be make a scarf, make a hat, make a sweater. If you have the scarf, the hat, and the sweater, you're done. You did it. You stayed accountable to yourself. But you might want to have a more public-facing form of accountability. There's a couple of options. As writers, you could say, by the end of my personal curriculum, I want to have written an article, a blog post, and an ebook, just 'cause. the whole point is not to make this connected to your work. So those forms of writing should feel fun and not like responsibilities, but that might just be what you need to do to stay accountable to yourself. You could also potentially get into community with other people with personal curriculums and meet up on a regular basis and share where you are in your curriculum just to keep yourself accountable. You could make a video like this one and let people know, here's what I'm learning. It's up to you, but there should be a built-in form of accountability to make sure that you do have something that keeps you staying on track. It doesn't have to be like a taskmaster. It doesn't have to be something that makes you feel oppressed by your personal curriculum, but you should incorporate it into the process so that you, again, stay directed and stay on task as much as you can and as much as you want to. All right. Finally, last but not least, what tools do you need to do your personal curriculum? Again, I am fully engaged in the analog version of all the things. I have a notebook. That's it. I have a notebook. And in my notebook, I have written my goals. I have written my the books that I want to, the books, the documentaries, like all of the subject areas that I want to keep. I've also the subject areas I want to study, the books and documentaries, podcasts that I want to listen to. But then I also, in my in this book, I'm also tracking all of the facts I'm learning. I'm tracking all of the, for example, all the medicinal plants for my teas that I'm growing. It's all in here. And I'm even creating a junk journal style collection of all of the teas I've been purchasing and drinking. So that it's almost like a scrapbook of my tea experiences. And if I end up going to a tea tasting, I'll probably, put the name, like whatever that might be, I'll put that in there as well. So that at the end of 2026, this will be like hopefully a full scrapbook of my personal curriculum for the year. It will have everything that I have collected and learned, and it will be an archive of this personal curriculum for me. And it will be a source of knowledge when I am looking for my tea recipes. I'll have them there. All of my botanical learnings, I'll have them there. It'll be a reference book as well as an archive for me. You don't have to be completely analog. You may keep your information on the internet. If your thing is craft based, you might have a basket of yarn. I don't know, whatever you need to keep your information that you have learned in one place. But definitely the idea of tools should be minimal, and it should work for you. That is the most important thing. All right, so this video has gotten to be super long. If you're still here, thank you. But let's just wrap this up by thinking about the benefits of a personal curriculum as a writer. The personal curriculum works because you are choosing not only the topic, but you are choosing how you want to deepen your knowledge on the topic. As writers, we need to continuously add to our knowledge bank, right? We need to continuously make ourselves smarter, more creative, more aware of all of the incredible stories that already exist in the world. So I hope you choose to do a personal curriculum in 2026. It's not too late to start. Do it how you want to. And if you are doing one already, or if you decide to start doing one, please leave me in the comments a message about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then we can all cheer each other on. We could even use this as a space to check in and be accountable. All right. See you in the next video.